Good morning, everyone. Daniel, thank you for that very generous introduction. And on behalf of my company, Toyota Motor North America, I am thrilled to be with all of you this morning for the 10th North American Supply Chain Executive Conference. Now, I'm going to have to admit something right up front. I believe this is the first time for Toyota to participate in this conference after 10 years. So I think, Daniel, this puts us in the laggard category, right? But really thrilled to be here this morning to share thoughts and ideas with fellow supply chain professionals, all really aimed at advancing our profession across multiple industries. What I'll be sharing with you this morning is a story. It's a story that's only been told a couple of times, in public at least, and it's a story of how we have reimagined our supply chain by focusing even more intensely on our customer. Now, like any good story, I'm going to start at the beginning, and this is the beginning of Toyota here in the United States. Our U.S. story began all the way back in 1956, importing our first vehicle. This is the Toyopet. Now, this was not an overnight success by far. In fact, it was an absolute, utter failure. The Toyopet did not meet U.S. customer needs, specifically at highway speeds at the then new interstate highway system. We failed, in short, because we did not know our customer. But we learned quickly by listening to our customers, and my forefathers at Toyota, this was well before my time, really listened carefully and adjusted our product to meet the customer's needs. And our business grew, importing vehicles from Japan. And through these years, we built a service and sales network over several decades, port operations, service parts distribution facilities, and a very robust distributor and dealer network. And the success of growing this business in the United States led to a really important strategic decision to build where we sell. Now, our first manufacturing plant was a joint venture with General Motors called NUMMI. Now, this is a well-known story studied in college courses through the years. It was a shuttered plant that was reborn, a workforce described by General Motors as the most difficult in their entire manufacturing network. But that workforce embraced the Toyota culture. And we could introduce the Toyota production system that Daniel mentioned to the US, and we could learn that it works, and it works really well here. Now, this ushered in a period of rapid growth. Now, I was a part of the company at this point in time, and we built a new plant every other year over 2 decades. Crazy times. And we added buy where we build to build where we sell, meaning that we localized the supply of parts and materials needed to meet our vehicle. But now I want to point out we had 2 supply chains, a sales and service supply chain and a manufacturing supply chain. And we continue to grow the supply chain network over these next several decades plus. The complexity of our supply chain grew tremendously, largely due to the diversification of powertrains due to the electrification of our product lineup. Now, we call this multi-pathway, which means providing customers the product that they need while reducing carbon emissions from those products. Things like hybrids, plug-in hybrids, battery electric vehicles, and high-efficiency internal combustion engines. Our most recent expansion, in fact, includes a $14 billion battery plant in North Carolina that just launched production a short while ago. Today, our supply chain is one of the most largest and complex in existence anywhere. We manage over 70 billion parts per year with an annual buy approaching $60 billion. We produce over 2 million vehicles here and support service for over 45 million vehicles that are on the road today. Our logistics network accounts for over 50 trips around the world each and every day. I love that statistic. Now, with this scale, it's really important to minimize the impact on the environment from our supply chain operations, and we're, of course, very focused on reducing carbon emissions, both for our supply chain and through our products as well. Believe it or not, the Prius, the first commercial hybrid vehicle, was introduced over 25 years ago in this market. And we're unique among automakers in that we can apply our in-house designed and built zero-emission hydrogen fuel cell powertrains to Class A trucks. And we're now beginning to deploy those in our logistics network. So as you can probably tell, I'm very proud of our success to date, and I want to share with you, we believe there's 3 key drivers to this success. The first, no surprise, the Toyota Production System, or TPS. What may be a surprise to you, though, is what's Toyota's definition of TPS is, and that's written here on this slide: an organization-wide culture of highly engaged people solving problems and innovating to drive performance. Now, what's probably surprising to you is what this definition does not include. It does not include some of those familiar TPS terms like jidoka or haijunka. Now, this image may be more familiar to those of you who have studied TPS through the year. It contains some of those familiar terms. But I can tell you, we have learned a lot over the past several decades working with over 500 different organizations through our Toyota Production System Support Center. What we've learned is knowing and effectively deploying TPS tools, yes, is certainly important, but it's not what's most important. What's most important is what was on that prior slide: people engaged in a culture that supports them. In Toyota, we call this the Toyota Way, and it's really based on 2 core principles: respect for people and continuous improvement. Now, the second driver of our success, in our view, are relationships. Respect for people starts with our own committed team members, but it extends to include crucial relationships with business partners like suppliers and our dealers. And those relationships are consistently ranked at the top in industry surveys, validating our focus on them. The third driver to success is customer-first mindset. And the evidence of this is our perennial ranking at the top in customer satisfaction surveys. And we believe the strength of our supply chain operations are a big factor, delivering component part quality, stability, and consistency. Now, based on these 3 drivers, we've built a supply chain that has achieved many great accomplishments through the decades. But like the rest of the world, COVID-19 pandemic proved to be a shock to the system, revealing, in our view, a false sense of security and confidence. We were effective, in fact, very effective during stable conditions, but not resilient enough to handle the extreme uncertainty and disruption brought by the pandemic. In our view, this was not just a supply chain crisis, this was a true wake-up call. And while COVID-19 was not the cause, we had started this before. Therefore, it was not the cause, but it did prove to be a significant accelerator to address these shortcomings. Our dealers, because of the lack of traditional ground stock, it exposed them to gaps in visibility and predictability within our system. Our customers were left waiting. Promises were broken and trust eroded. Perhaps some of you had those experiences during that time, and if you did, I sincerely apologize to you. For our suppliers, while they were struggling with semiconductor shortages and labor shortages due to our lack of upstream visibility, we couldn't really prioritize for them our downstream needs. For our team members, they faced unprecedented challenges in terms of the volume of problems to solve. They were overwhelmed by the constant firefighting without the tools and the data that they really needed to take action. They were placed in a position where they were disappointing our suppliers and disappointing our customers, and that really took a toll on morale. Even the vaunted Toyota production system was under assault. Lean practices were assigned blame for shortages, and some in the media even asked the question, is TPS dead? Now, we reflected very deeply on the nature of the systemic challenges that we faced, and what we found was by operating two supply chains in parallel, remember, a sales and service supply chain and a manufacturing supply chain operating in parallel, the unintended consequences of this were silos, systems that didn't communicate, information that didn't flow. And while we had access to digital technologies, our operations and our mindset was still largely analog. This analog operating model relied heavily on the expertise and dedication of our team members. And despite their very, very best efforts, and our team members are incredible, it made clear that our model had clear limitations. It was reactive and disconnected. Our ability to fully adopt, our inability, I should say, to fully adopt a digital-first mindset really left us vulnerable. Now, in addition to all that, if that's not enough, we faced increasing complexity from ever-growing government regulations. Of course, we have long-standing issues like emissions and fuel economy standards, but we increasingly faced newer factors, things like USMCA and now tariffs, that add even more complexity. Our hard realization in reflecting upon all of this is that despite our success up to that point in time, frankly speaking, we weren't good enough. We weren't good enough for our customers, for our business partners, for our team members, for our own future. So, we rapidly accelerated a transformation. We call it SCAF, Supply Chain and Fulfillment Transformation. After all good transformations need a good acronym, right? In the heart of this transformation is a bold vision. It's a vision to transition to a customer-centered supply chain, built to deliver, first and foremost, trust, where customers trust us to deliver what they want and when they want it, where our business partners trust us to collaborate seamlessly with them, and our team members trust us to empower them with the tools, the information, and the technology they need to succeed. We're moving from two fragmented and siloed supply chains with the customer at the end to one supply chain, an end-to-end seamless integration, fully integrating our ecosystem with the customer at the very center. Now, this is built on our digital platform. We call it Cube, unifying data, processes, and systems across all of our functions. It provides, for the first time, real-time visibility, predictive insights, and seamless collaboration, allowing us to break down those silos I referenced, foster collaboration, align around shared goals, finally, to operate as one supply chain team. So in our view, this isn't just a system change. Building one supply chain creates a common mindset, all focused on serving our customer. Now, to move beyond the limits of our manual, expertise-driven processes, we're transitioning to digital operations powered by AI, but most importantly, based on TPS principles, which really empowers the ingenuity of our team members, because we believe a team member empowered by AI will surpass anyone without it. AI takes over the repetitive and data-heavy tasks, freeing our people to innovate and problem solve. In our demand and supply planning function, one of the key functions at the heart of our supply chain operations, AI-powered tools have already replaced 75 different spreadsheets that we previously used to manage those operations, providing us real-time scenario planning and predictive insights, where we can now anticipate demand shifts and respond in a proactive way. We're now using AI to scale how we deploy TPS, leading to faster problem detection and resolution. Imagine TPS operating at digital speeds enabled by real-time data and insights. That's something pretty powerful in my view. Now, to address the growing complexity that I referenced, we're building a supply chain that is resilient and adaptive. At its heart, our digital twins technology, we call that SIM engine. This is real-time, data-driven representation of our entire supply chain. It simulates, it adapts, and optimizes across our suppliers, our dealers, our customers, and also enables regulatory compliance as well. Now, our dealers now have greater transparency and accurate delivery promises, helping them to build trust with our customers. Digital twins allows our customers now a new level of flexibility, delivering real-time responsiveness to order changes, where they can make those changes and get immediate acceptance and seamless delivery schedule updates. Digital twins gives us an ability to adapt quickly to supply-side disruptions, ensuring continuity, where we can now pivot our production plans and provide suppliers real-time updates so they can better plan their own operations. For our team members, really importantly, they're empowered and enabled with the tools they need to manage this growing complexity. Digital twins allow simulating optimal pathways to regulatory compliance, and it helps to establish new skill sets, growing this next generation of our supply chain experts, combining both business supply chain expertise and technical expertise as well. And perhaps this is my most important, or my favorite part of it, I should say, is rather than the death of the Toyota production system, in our view, this is heralding in a new era of TPS powered by the most advanced technology. Just as in the past, we view the TPS as the future as our true competitive advantage. In our view, this isn't just the story of a transformation, it's a redefinition of what a supply chain can be, moving from a utility function to a unique value creator and a competitive differentiator. It's blending the timeless strengths of TPS with cutting-edge technology, creating a supply chain that embraces complexity, adapts to challenges, and delivers value at each and every turn. In doing so, we're turning a bold vision into reality and ensuring our continued success and the happiness of our customers into the future. Thank you. Thanks very much. We do have time for some Q&A. I know we have mic runners in the audience. I see a couple quick hands up here in the front.
Thank you, Chris, for the insightful presentation. Can you give us some more flavor on how you prepared your supplier network to come along in this journey with you? And what role did Toyota play, and how did you also influence and empower your suppliers to transform just like you did with your supply chain?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. I'm going to go back to touch on one thing I said in the presentation, which is kind of the foundation of how we have brought our suppliers along. In our view, it starts with the relationship and the trust that's built in that relationship. We are very intentional and focus a tremendous amount of time on building those relationships with our suppliers and leadership at our suppliers. And I think it gives us a real competitive advantage when it comes to deploying technology. At the heart of AI is data, right? And the willingness of suppliers to share with us their data, we think is a real key going forward. In fact, I spoke a year or so ago to someone that I really respect in the consulting industry that has been involved in the auto industry globally for decades, and really, I believe, has his finger on the pulse of where different automakers are and relative strengths and weaknesses. And one of the things he told me that really stuck with me was this. He said, Chris, Toyota's not the technology leader today in terms of your information systems. And yeah, I know you're transforming and you're doing a lot of great work to improve a lot. But you may, even in the future, not be the best. But that doesn't matter. You don't have to be the best in that because you're the best at your relationship with suppliers. And they're willing to share with you data and information they won't share with some of your competitors. So in short, that's how we're bringing our suppliers along. And one of the things that by the end of this year we'll fully have in place as a part of SCAFT, our supply chain transformation, is something we call two-way connectivity, which gives us really unprecedented access to the supplier's condition and allows us to share our production plans and forecast, and really makes things much more visible so that when there are potential disruptions coming up in the future, they're highlighted at much earlier timing and then allows us to do joint problem solving. So that's the most significant initial supplier connection piece of this. Thank you.
It's a fantastic presentation. Couple of questions. One is the commercial supply chain and the production manufacturing supply chain. Any reason why COVID turned out to be the compelling event to converge these two? Or was there thinking to do this even before that, bringing these two supply chains together? The second thing is you said Toyota Production System is also a foundation for the future. What I'm curious about is it a little bit limiting because now your vision is expanding across the value chain? So just curious about that.
Sure.
Thank you.
So regarding your first question, we established a sales and marketing organization in Southern California, shortly after the first vehicle was imported from Japan in 1956. Fast forward, shortly after NUMMI, we established our first wholly owned manufacturing facility in Georgetown, Kentucky. Daniel mentioned that location earlier. And a few years after that, we expanded to have manufacturing plants in Canada and West Virginia, Indiana. So we established a manufacturing headquarters in the Midwest. So at that point in time, we really had two headquarters, right? And I grew up in the manufacturing side of the company. I really didn't have much contact with the sales side of the company in California. So because of our organization structure, the two supply chains operated in parallel. It wasn't until we announced in 2014 and fully implemented in 2017, bringing those two headquarters locations together to one location in Plano, Texas, which is where I'm based. That really was the trigger point to bring together the two supply chains. As I mentioned in the presentation, we had begun that integration effort, but some of the weaknesses we had that really were exposed during COVID was the reason that we really have accelerated that now. It's taken us too long, but we're definitely well along in our journey here. And regarding Toyota Production System, our belief is TPS can apply to any type of process. We have an external consulting arm that does both, works with both for-profit companies for fee-based consulting, and we do a lot of pro bono work with the healthcare industry, government agencies, food banks, those types of things. And we've been able to show TPS being applied to all different types of things. One of the things I'm most excited about right now is we have an organization called Toyota Research Institute, which is doing a lot of work in advanced automated driver systems, advanced robotics, and the like. These are PhD level scientists and everything, but they are so excited about TPS, and we're working closely with them to try to figure out how can we bring TPS concepts to things like developing the software for autonomous vehicles. So in our view, TPS can apply and does apply to really anything.
Thank you. First of all, I'm geeking out a little bit, so thank you for the opportunity to ask a question.
Oh, there you are.
I will have an opportunity to ask a question directly. So thank you for that. Thank you for your presentation. My question is related to people. You mentioned a big shift on the Toyota system is now focused on people, and the soft skills that you mentioned are related to empowerment, people being engaged, and the culture of the company. So what are the steps, or what is the change to transform the people skills and the soft skills required?
Yeah, thanks for your question. One thing I will say in response to that, from our standpoint, people in the development of our people has always been at the heart of TPS. So from that standpoint, it's really not a change. But I don't think that's how TPS has been understood, or that how it's been described historically in the United States. It's been more about the tools, right? And less about, the culture that's required. And, I mentioned we work with a lot of, companies through the years, well over 500. And what we have found is those that set the right tone from the top, those that build a culture focused on people development, not focused on the tools of TPS, are the ones that can successfully deploy TPS. But what's more important is sustainment. That's the hardest part. And culture and developing your people, in our view, are really the key to sustaining TPS. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you give me more sound, guys? Thank you very much. In 1988, a man named Dave Swanson wrote a white paper. He owned manufacturing for Procter & Gamble, and he said, we're going to bring everything together required to please the consumer in making the product in one organization, and redesign. We called it product supply. 30 years later, that vision has driven that company amazingly. Did you play that role at Toyota? Who played that role at Toyota? Because it really, guys, is integration. It changes the whole organization. It's a total redesign.
It does, and thank you for recognizing that. No one person, right, does anything by themselves. We have a tremendous team, and I included in my team a man by the name of Kevin Austin. Kevin's not here. Kevin is an incredible thought leader, has an incredible transformative mind, and I would say he has been my great partner in crime in terms of envisioning this. We've, of course, it's change is not easy, particularly with organization, but I think we've been able to share a vision that is compelling to the organization as a whole, and have had tremendous support from our partners in manufacturing, our partners in the sales organization, which really own the relationship with the dealers, really to deliver on this. So it's a whole company effort, but Kevin has been certainly my primary partner in terms of the visioning aspect of it.
Well, that's fantastic. I still have the letter Dave Swanson wrote, and that's how it impacted it had on me. And I'd been out of the university 9 years at that time, and going to manage my first production plant, total thing in and end. And I still carry that letter with me, because it's the biggest example I've seen of a dramatic change, really inspired. I guess you and Kevin have done it at Toyota. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Bravo.